Amanda, this module is about emotional intelligence, and I know you do some work in this space. So, what does the term emotional intelligence mean to you?
Yeah, so emotional intelligence, I feel that, there's a lot of different definitions and different concepts of what it is and what it's not, depending on when you're doing your research about it. But simply put, how I like to say, it's making your emotions work for you and not
Mm-hmm.
against you. We know, and if you don't know already, there's four different components when it comes to emotional intelligence. There's self-awareness. And I'm not going to go too into detail of all of these, but it's really just being aware of your emotions and noticing how you feel in certain situations. Then there's that self management piece. It's really how is it you're going to adapt and manage your emotions, because this is where your emotions are really going to work for you or against you. And you have that
Mm-hmm.
decision for that. Knowing that if you're upset, do I need to take a pause and take a moment? Or is this a situation where I need to completely remove myself? Being able to notice that. And something that I want to state for the record is that, we can't control how we feel,
Mm-hmm.
but we can control what we do with those emotions. And that's
Exactly.
where that self management really comes in, because emotions are our instinct, it's natural. It's something that, if I go to a restaurant, my favorite restaurant, I'm ordering my favorite meal, I'm naturally going to be happy. Already talking about my favorite meal, I'm already getting happy.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to be aware of that and what is it that I'm going to do with that happiness moving forward. And that can go with all emotions in many different situations. Um, and with that self management, it's being able to shift your perspective whenever you have certain emotions. Are you going to be able to have a positive outlook if you are feeling down, or if you're feeling a little bit negative or upset or sad? So that's just kind of some examples for self-management. And then we have social awareness. It's being mindful of others' emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometimes maybe you've heard it before. It's when you're in a room, are you able to read the room?
Right.
How is the energy? Is the energy flat? Is there tension? Let's say you're on a team. You have maybe not have a good relationship with your coach, or maybe there's two teammates that aren't getting along with each other. You're able to feel that when you enter into the room. So being able to be aware of that. But I feel a big component of social awareness is empathy. Empathy is so huge and so important, because there's three parts of empathy. There's cognitive empathy. It's okay, I think I understand what that person might be feeling and their emotions and their thoughts. And then there's emotional empathy. It's being that empath. And I describe myself as an emotional empath, because if I have a close friend or someone that I care for that is upset and sad and they're crying, if you cry, I cry too. So it's really taking on those emotions in addition to that. And then there's compassionate empathy. Um, AJ, I know you've seen Coach Carter.
Right.
So, for example, when Mr. Cruz wanted to come back onto the team, he had to do all those suicides, all those push ups, everything, to kind of break it down into those different steps. So, cognitive empathy, his teammates are like, dang, I know how he feels. He has to get down.
Mm-hmm.
He has to get all those suicides, all those push ups, everything that he has to do. I feel bad for him. That's
Right.
cognitive empathy, right? Emotional empathy is when they naturally were like, oh, dang, Mr. Cruz has to do all of those things. That's
Right.
me feeling for you. Compassionate empathy is moving beyond those things and really supporting you, moving into action. What did Mr. Cruz's teammates do? They said, how many do you have? We got you, coach. We're
Let
going
me
to
help
help.
you. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that is compassionate empathy. And sometimes with empathy, it's easier for others, and sometimes it's not as easy. But it is something that you can learn, but it's something you do have to be patient with. Um,
No,
so
those
that,
are all. No,
yeah,
those are
well,
all very powerful examples. In fact, you elaborate on the stage setting video that the students would have watched. So you talked about the benefits, the reality, the naturalness of emotions being tied to relationships, and sometimes
mhm,
they can make them even better, more genuine, sincere, authentic. But
right.
in what ways, particularly for young people, can emotions get the best of them? And then, is there any recommendations you have on how to acknowledge their triggers or manage themselves?
Yeah. So it takes some time. It's a progression for sure, but it's being able to be intentional. A big part of that is being intentional. And I didn't mention the last piece of emotional intelligence, but it's that relationship management piece. As high school student athletes, you're around people all the time, whether it's your friends, whether it's your teammates, whether it's your coaches. Being able to recognize the emotion is number one. And sometimes just in that there it's a lot of work to do that, but when you recognize it, you then have the decision and then the ability to think, what am I going to do with this emotion? If I'm going to be able to act this way when I'm upset, what kind of outcome is going to happen? Is that going to align with the type of person that I am? So it takes a lot of reflection. Sometimes it's just sitting down and thinking, what kind of emotions did I experience today? How am I feeling at this moment? And being truthful and honest in that is okay too. You know, we wish that we could be happy 24/7, but life is life and it comes
Mhm.
at you very surprisingly and at times that you're not aware of on how it's going to happen. But being able to really be reflective and sit down, but not only that inner reflection, it's the reflection of how others perceive you.
Right.
Maybe it's myself asking AJ, like, hey, when I show up today or when I show up sometimes, how do you perceive my emotions are? How do you feel I handle conflict? How do you feel I'm able to influence people or inspire others? It's being able to have those real conversations and having a conversation with someone who is going to tell you, you know, how people perceive you. And that could be dependent on the person that you have conversations with, but it's a lot of reflection. But take your time, give yourself grace in the process of it.
Powerful, powerful. You really complimented the video, and I love the way you've articulated the various stages, because emotional intelligence, sometimes you got to figure out what does that mean, but
Mhm.
it has depth, it has layers. But the one thing, and maybe I'll give you the last thought here is, individuals, we call them sometimes high low people, right? Sometimes they're, everything's wonderful, and then sometimes they think the world is, sort of coming at them. But when you're trying to have team culture that's positive, supportive, collaborative, a lot of times a single individual who may not be conscious of how they're moving in the space can disrupt team culture. So, any last thoughts around seeing yourself as a part of a team and sort of self managing when and how you can?
Yeah. So I think a big part of that, especially in high school, I'm guilty of this myself, and maybe others can resonate with this. You're still trying to find who you are. So being able to understand that you're not trying to just adapt and extort or change who you are to fit into a culture, that's where we have the conversation between whether you belong or whether you fit in.
Mm,
Renee talks about the opposite of belonging is fitting in.
mm,
So, where is it that you feel like with your culture, you can just be who you are? Like, who is AJ? Are you able to be that 100% whenever you come to practice, whenever you come to a game? And really understanding, what are your strengths? Not the strengths of Amanda over there, not the strengths of AJ over there. Like, what are my strengths? And understanding that leadership as well, when it comes to relationship management and being a part of a team, there's no one size fits all. Everyone has their own strengths, but really being able to look in and figure out what that means for you is very important.
powerful. Thank you so much, Amanda. Appreciate you joining us for this conversation around emotional intelligence. Coach, we'll turn it back over to you.